Hi everyone, it's Matt Stader here, Archbishop of Australia with the Ecumenical Order of Christ and service to Lord Rael. I have no script, no plan, nothing. I'm just going to talk on essentially whatever comes to mind. Now, I'll start with, there are probably a lot of people out there who look at the information that's posted in the congregation and for whatever reason either choose to ignore it or pretend that there must be some other explanation, or whatever the case may be. Many different possibilities of what people might be thinking. When I first saw the WikiLeaks video, which I think was approximately 2.5, 3 years ago now, I was essentially an atheist. Although I had a belief that there was something out there that equated to God, my disbelief was mainly towards the organised religions that I was aware of at the time. There's various Christian faiths, Catholicism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, then of course Islam and Judaism. But around the age of 15 I came to the conclusion that there must be I could see the similarities between the three. Although a lot of Christians, a lot of Muslims, a lot of Jewish people try to disregard the notion, there are common threads between the three Abrahamic faiths. And they're very easy to see if you look just a little bit below the surface. All three are waiting for the Messiah, have been waiting for thousands of years. But all of them have taken their writings, the writings of their prophets, their scholars, the founding fathers of their faiths, if you will. And over the centuries, over the millennia, these writings and their interpretation have been clouded by misunderstanding and misinterpretation, mistranslation. And the only way to really see the truth of it is to look to things like the Aramaic Peshitta, which is translated directly from the original language that the New Testament was written in, straight to English, as opposed to the Christian versions which have been translated into tens of thousands of multiple different versions. I've had Christians tell me that the slight alterations of wording between different versions don't change the meaning whatsoever. Now, there's one example I like to bring up in relation to that, and take from it what you will. The Aramaic and Hebrew as well, I believe, have cases where the exact same word can be interpreted in many different ways depending on the context that it's in. One word, for example, is the word that was translated to mean virgin in every version of the Christian Bible out there. Now, that word alone, I believe, has at least 14 different meanings, depending on, as I said, the context that it's in. And from what I understand, if you look at the original texts, the context that it's in the way it's the story of the Virgin Mary is written, in that context the word actually means young woman. Never specifically said that she was a virgin. Anyway, just using that as an example. The only way you can really see the truth is to examine the purest form of the writings possible, along with a healthy dose of common sense and logic. Again, the Christian concept that when Christ returns he's going to be standing on a cloud and everyone is going to see him simultaneously, everyone on the planet, and automatically know who he is. Okay, first of all, an actual cloud in the sky is water vapour. Physically impossible for any being to stand on. Then again, you might get the argument from Christians that, he's in spirit form. Why does a spirit need something to stand on? Okay, second one. For everyone on the planet to automatically see him in the sky at the same time. Again, that doesn't work. The Earth would have to be flat. And he would have to be extremely large. Logic doesn't work there. There is no logic in that claim. It's still going with logic. That the belief that everyone on the planet, over 7 billion people, would automatically know that this was the returned Christ. Instantly. Fundamental foundation of anything to do with God. Free will. For the primarily Buddhist nation of China to all know, as an example, for all of them to know that this being floating in the sky, standing on a cloud of water vapour, exactly who he is and what he's there for and what his intentions are. They would have to have a belief forced into their head against their will. So, quite simply, there is a common sense logical foundation to every prophecy and prediction that has ever been made in regards to the end times, in regards to the book of Revelation, in regards to everything to do with the origin of man and the return of Christ. Okay. You see in the book of Genesis the story of the creation of Adam and Eve. Again, this is a very broad claim, and there is more to it than this, but the book of Genesis alone is not an original document. It was rewritten by Moses as part of the Torah, with information encoded within it by God. This is what Richard and Emil and Robert now as well work with in revealing the Torah codes to us. Now, I've done a little bit of work with them myself, and I'm nowhere near the level of extracting the Torah codes of Richard or Emil or Robert. Just not something that I can get my head around to the same extent. But I know enough about them to see that the information that is coming out of there cannot, the mathematical odds aside, the information that is coming out of the Torah in the form of the code matrices, it cannot be there by chance, cannot be there by accident. It's just not possible. It's the mathematical odds prove on a scientific basis that the information was put there intentionally. But that aside, I was originally talking about the origins of the book of Genesis itself. In what is now called Iraq, there is the ruins of an ancient city. In modern times, it is referred to as Samaria. And as it was excavated, I think in the mid-20th century, extensive records were found that were all written before Moses wrote the Torah. All these things were recorded long before Moses wrote the Torah, and yet spoke about the same things. The creation of man, the flood of Noah. But they were more complete stories and explained in a more common sense, in a way that was easier to understand. Okay. Noah, as he is named in the Bible, had a different name. The remains of the ark have been found exactly where you would expect them to be, on the slopes of Mount Ararat. And it is the exact dimensions given in the Bible for how big Noah was told to build the ark. But the Sumerian version explains things a bit differently. There was never rain. It wasn't rain. It was a pole shift brought about by Nemesis and Nibiru passing close to Earth through our solar system, which caused the Earth to tilt, but the oceans to essentially stay where they were, washing over land and covering vast areas as a result. One consequence of this was the entire Sumerian civilization was inundated with water and buried under sediment. But one group of people survived on the ark. Now, there was no need for 2 of every animal on the planet to be taken aboard, because there was still land that was left untouched by the flood. What Noah was told to take onto the ark was essentially equipment and